First meeting, I was back for that second.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I wasn't out here. That's the first time you were back. I may kind of hang back on that one.
Just trying to get my facts straight here on that, about what we're actually looking for.
Which I mean, like, that's a lot more building point.
We're gonna get started.
That was tricky.
Hey, welcome to the May 22nd, 2025 VAR Small Meeting. My name is Lindsay Van Slambrook. I'll be your chairwoman today. Fellow board members present this evening are Daryl Cobb, Becky Fenno, Bill Turner, and Fillmore Wilson. City staff present this evening are Travis Scally, Senior Preservation Planner, Frankie Pinto, VARS Administrator, and Rachel Four, Preservation Planner. The order of tonight's meeting will be as follows. For each application, we'll hear an introduction and overview of the project for city staff, for the benefit of the board and the public. This will be followed by the applicant's presentation. The applicant will have a 10-minute period of time to present their project, and anyone speaking on behalf of the applicant, this would be owners, designers, consultants, to speak during the applicant presentation period versus during public comment. By ordinance, the board can ask questions of the applicant at any time. By custom, we do so on the heels of the applicant's presentation. This will be followed by public comment. Any written public comment that was timely submitted has been provided to the board in advance of the meeting for review. If you are speaking as a member of the public, please raise your hand. I'll recognize you and approach the podium and state your name first and last for the record, and your address if you're a neighbor that lives nearby. Public comment will be followed by city staff comments and recommendations. Once we've heard from the public and city staff, the applicant will have a 5-minute period of time to respond to or to clarify anything raised in the public comment or in the staff comments and recommendations. Once we've heard from the applicant and their response, the public comment and the applicant's presentation will be closed, and we'll move into board discussion and a vote on each application. The following items have been withdrawn or deferred. Item B10, 158 Spring Street. If there are students present, welcome. Once you've stayed for the allotted period of time, please approach, will it be Rachel, Frankie, one of these ladies over here, and they'll sign what you need. And please turn off your cell phones, and also remember that the purview of this board is architecture only. So anything related to zoning, stormwater, livability is not within the purview of this board and should not be voiced here. All right. Agenda item A1 is review of the minutes from the May 8th, 2025 meeting. I make a motion to defer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Fillmore. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Agenda item B1, 20 Alberta. Travis, if you'll give us introduction overview of the project, please.
20 Alberta Avenue is in Wagner Terrace, County District 6. It is in the historic materials demolition purview, so it is a category 4 group 2 and built circa 1940. They are requesting approval of a partial demolition, including the back portion of the roof. We have an aerial of the property, and we are ready for the applicant.
Thank you, Travis, and thank you, board. And thank you for meeting with me on the site this morning. Some of the things I said there, I'll just say so that the public is here. Everything is that the owners have been in the house for over 7 years. They're invested in this neighborhood and want to stay in the house, so they're looking to do an addition to allow for that to happen. Small house right now, it's just over 1,000 square feet. We are looking to, let's see if I hit this the right way. So just some of the other aerials, historic timeline for the property. And we'll get, there's a nice little picture bottom left of what we have. Existing survey. And get to hopefully a demolition plan here. So removing the back third of the roof to allow for us to get an addition to be put on the rear. Something that I didn't mention on site, but I will mention today is about that the rear demolition. That first floor level on the rear, it is going to be 2-story, but that first floor level is a screen porch. So majority of the siding material that's on the rear wall will remain on the rear wall. We are stepping our addition in 12 inches from each corner to allow for the shape of the original house to remain intact. And feel that with the application that we're putting forward, we're doing the best that we can to try to adhere to the guidelines that the bar kind of gives, that if there's going to be a roof that's removed, that it occurs in the back portion of the property to maintain the front. So we're attempting to do all of that. Let's see if there's, so here's the elevations. That window on the left side, that's going to have to be pantry area, which is the reason for that, the request for that removal. And then you can see the small portion of that roof, trying to keep the house as close to remaining the same and visually as is as possible, and still accomplish the goal that the owners have. And I'll just leave it at that, because I don't know that there's what else to say. Other than we did present to Wagner Terrace Neighborhood Association in April. They did give us their support. Clients have met with the adjacent neighbors. They have supported the application.
A question, can you go back, when we were on site this morning, you said you would be removing the rear wall, and did you just?
So, yeah, so that's incorrect. It's always, you're not supposed to be privy of what's going back, so you just think of the demolition.
No, we can
And so,
only
you're
consider
not
the
thinking,
whole.
but the first floor, that addition that goes back is just screen porch. And then what would be on the second floor would be the master bedroom.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking?
I'm Catherine Alexander with the Preservation Society of Charleston. We thank the applicant for their time on site this morning. While we appreciate that demolition is concentrated to the rear of the roof, we ask that the scope of demolition be reduced and that both the ridge and the eaves be preserved to allow the distinct jerkin head roof form to remain legible. We also encourage the applicant to reference the Wagner Terrace area character appraisal, which was adopted in 2024 or approved by the BAR in 2024 and is available on the city's website as a resource for identifying and preserving the character defining features that make this neighborhood so distinctive. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Lisa Jones, Historic Charleston Foundation. We've reviewed the request for partial demolition of the back roof and would like to express our concern that the demolition as presented is too large in scale, much like the Preservation Society just noted. We request that in addition to preserving the ridge, the demolition area be pulled back and away from the roof edge, and the clipped gables be maintained as a character defining feature. And the height and width of the demolition should be reduced in size to be more in keeping with demolition needed for dormers. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Is there anyone else speaking from the public? Okay, Travis, if you give us the staff comments and recommendations, please.
All right, staff observations. Staff appreciates keeping the request to the rear of the building. The clipped gable roof is a unique roof form, and the proposed demolition would erase this character defining feature. This roof is highly visible from Alberta Avenue. Staff's recommendation is denial. However, staff would support a new submittal for demolition of the rear elevation below the eaves.
You, Travis. Joel, did you want to respond to or clarify anything?
Sure, thank you. The intent is that we will maintain the eave line, the back ridge, that portion of the roof. That ridge was intended to come off there, but we would be stacking on the exterior wall. No, yes, and then stepping in at the back, but we're going to maintain that eave line. And I guess I'll just answer questions that y'all have, and then maybe if try to keep the product. I hope that y'all would be supportive, even though staff isn't and others aren't. But if you aren't, if we could, maybe break this up if there are pieces that could be approved so that we can move forward with redesign. That we hope.
Thank you.
We got a question for you then. So if you say you're going to keep the eave and the hip feature at the back, then is the
not the hip feature, just that eave line running.
okay?
Fascia, sorry, that fascia
Okay.
line going. That little clipped is coming off because putting something over that portion.
Understood. Thank you.
All right, public comment in the applicant's presentation is not closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
I think it started, it's all right. I agree with staff that the clipped gables, they're a very character defining and unique feature of this house. You don't see a lot of those. And that's actually the main feature of this house. And I would hate to lose that. The rear of the house, it's, when you go back onto the rear street on West Poplar, it's pretty visible. The upper part of the house, lower part of the house is obscured by a fence. I'm fine with the loss of the rear porch. I believe there's a window on the rear as well, which I'm okay with that. But my biggest concern is losing a full 1/3 of the roof. I think that's kind of excessive, and with the house being so small, I know that 1/3 of the little small house, it's not a lot of footage, but it's a big portion of this little small house. So my two concerns mostly are the clipped ridge and lost my train of thought.
Full demolition. of
Yeah,
the-
the full, yeah, of the
Here.
yeah.
I agree. I think, so we've approved demolition of probably maybe up to 30% of the roof for dormers. And then we've approved demo on the back of the house when you leave the eaves and the ridge intact. And this is going a step further and taking a piece that we normally retain. So I'm with you. I'm okay with the demolition of the back porch and that rear window. How about that window on the left elevation? I would like to retain that.
I think it would be best to retain it because it's so visible. But yeah, the things that give me the most heartburn are the amount of the roof that's coming off and losing that clipped gable.
Is it the amount of the roof, or if they were able to maintain the clipped gable at the back and the eaves?
It's a full 1/3 of a roof, like if this house were like much longer, 1/3 of a much longer roof wouldn't be as big of a deal.
Also, I think we've been pretty consistent in this area where we have not been approving like full portions of the roof. I mean, we've been approving openings for dormers that are down, that maintain the ridge and hold back from the edges, and that's been pretty consistent. So I feel like that's the direction we're headed is pretty consistent with the rulings that we've been making. Make a motion.
I don't have anything to add. I'm in agreement with you two and the Preservation Society and the Historical Society.
Is it possible, based on what the applicant said, is it helpful if we were to approve demolition of these rear elements?
Yeah, I mean,
Part of the-
I'm okay with that. Yeah. Do you want me to make a motion?
Go ahead.
Let's see. I agree with staff that the gable roof is a unique form, should be retained. So I think that there's denial of the roof demolition, but approval of the elements on the rear elevation, the porch and the window.
Do it this way, approval of demolition of the rear porch and window and denial of the remaining elements.
Yes.
I want to make sure we don't skip anything else in the application. Okay, we have a motion on the floor for approval of demolition of the rear porch and window and denial of the remaining demolition. Do I have a second to Becky's motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. Bill, put the motion to a vote. Daryl,
Yay in favor?
Becky,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
chair votes majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay,
But they weren't. Hard, hard on people.
All right, agenda item 2 is 292 Meeting Street. Travis, if you'll give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
292 Meeting Street, Council District 8, unrated circa 1962 in the Old and Historic District, and they are requesting a renewal of full demolition. This is the aerial corner of Meeting of George Street. And we are ready for the applicant's presentation.
Hi, good evening. I'm Eddie Page, architect representing the city of Charleston and indirectly Clemson University, who's the owner of this building. And thank y'all for being on site this morning to take a look at the structure. As you saw, and for the submission packet, it was built in the 60s and has had several lives, the last of which was for Clemson University Architecture School of Preservation Program. But as documented by the Sanborn maps, there was another actually very handsome structure there well prior to this, when this building was built in the 60s. It's just 292 Meeting that we would be requesting removal for. It was requested for removal 13 years ago and granted at that time, but that project did not move forward, so it has been there since. There's nothing, quite honestly, related to it of historic value. We did discuss the fact that some of the brick looks like it's salvaged and nicer brick from another project, but unfortunately, a lot of the mortar looks like it's a Portland cement, and I don't know that it could really be dealt with in a way that would save much of that. Again, interiors, as you've seen, if you've been on site, the prior application that was approved in so we appreciate your approval of this. I'm also going to introduce Edmund Mose, the Director of Capital Projects, to kind of explain a little bit the genesis of this and why it's important.
Thank you, Eddie.
Sure.
Edmund Mose, Capital Projects, City of Charleston. So we've been working on this for quite a while with actually the planning department. And this is in reference to a larger project, which is Fire Station number 2 and 3, which is the old central station, about a block and a half south, 2 blocks south of this, in Wentworth and Meeting Street. A couple of years ago, we did a full restoration, and it's really for seismic reasons that we're doing full restoration on Fire Station 2 and 3, but we did one on number 6, which is on Cannon Street. And this is a life safety approach. You know, the city is responsible for life safety, and we have to bring these old buildings up to seismic code, because if we do have a hurricane, a seismic event would take out our emergency response workers as well as the apparatus. Fire Station 2 and 3 is very integral to the city's safety program here, because it is the only fire station that is south of Spring Street. So the fire department always strives for 8-minute or less response time. So we in Capital Projects get tasked with trying to make all this stuff happen. So we actually worked with planning department, real estate, budget finance, and the fire department to identify, thought it was 50-something properties. It's actually 41 properties throughout the peninsula looking for another location. And there's restrictions either with environmental conditions, like on port properties or next to the aquarium garage. There's parking lots that the landowners just don't want the city putting their infrastructure on there, even though it's temporary. So there's a lot of challenges. The mayor actually approached Clemson University and said, hey, can we strike a deal on this? Because we need a temporary space to have our apparatus and our firefighters housed inside of their response zone until we can upfit and renovate our existing station. And I understand that actually that lease agreement went to real estate earlier this afternoon too. And that was part of the contingent was, you know, we need to be able to demo this building in order to get the apparatus. So, just want to ask if there's any questions specific to any of that information. That was a lot. Thank you.
Thank you all. So needless to say, our request tonight is just for the demolition of this structure, and we'll be back to you for any improvements that would happen to this row house, which is the single house that would house the firefighters as this project moves forward. Thanks.
Any questions for the applicant? Do we have anyone speaking?
Anna Catherine Alexander with the Preservation Society of Charleston. We really appreciate the time on site this morning. And as we spoke with the applicant, we were asking on site whether we thought any of the materials on site that appear to have been salvaged in the 60s could potentially be salvaged during the demolition process. And while we understand that can't be determined at this time, it would be helpful and prudent to consider as the demolition takes place, whether any of these elements could be, specifically the brick that appears to be older handmade brick, or at least some of it does, that if there could be any effort made to retain any of that for future use, we would encourage it. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking? Okay, Travis, could you give us any staff comments and recommendations?
Staff observations, this was previously approved in 2012. That 2012 motion did have some staff conditions. Those are no longer relevant. There were two that were the Stroll House that has, those improvements have been done since that 2012 approval. And as stated by the applicant, just to note that this is to be used as a temporary fire station for the 262, 264 meeting fire station while it's getting renovated. Staff recommendation, we do not oppose the demolition.
Thank you, Travis. Did the applicant want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or the staff comments?
Just briefly, again, in reference to Preservation Society, I think we're happy to, there we are, or try to accommodate, would be worried about it, make it a strict condition, because I do think the brick is kind of in a tough spot with the Portland cement, but certainly worth looking at. And as best we could tell, there wasn't really anything else that was of any historic value. Y'all may have noted when you were there as well, but that's all. Thank you.
Can I respond?
So I guess the challenges that I would see with salvaging the brick would be where it would be stored. Right now, the only storage yard we have is an open storage yard on Milford Street, which we need to vacate that site within the next 2 years. We're currently working on a replacement to the Milford site where this brick could be stored, but that won't be constructed for another 2 years, and there's no laydown area there at that facility. So it's really sad to say that the city of Charleston literally has no laydown area for storage of materials or anything. And I could speak, I was the project manager on the African American Museum, and all the attic stock that they gave to me, we had to throw in the dumpster because we had no place to store it, unfortunately. So it is unfortunate. We're tight on space, unfortunately.
Okay, applicant's presentation, public comments not closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
View it as a high quality structure, or contributory to the streetscape.
I think we discussed the brick on site as well, but just the reality of trying to salvage that is really not, typically not possible.
Yeah,
without
it would
extreme
be, I would be surprised if it
damage.
came apart with that. Portland, and it's hard. It's probably unrealistic stuff. You could save any reasonable quantity of it.
Fillmore, did you have a motion?
I would make a motion for approval of demolition.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for approval of demolition. Do I have a second to Fillmore's motion?
A second,
Becky, put the motion to a vote. Bill,
A yay in favor.
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Becky.
yay in favor.
The chair votes to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 3, 17 Pinckney Street. Travis, could you give us an introduction overview of the project, please?
17 Pinckney Street, it is in Council District 8, it is a category 4, circa 1902 in the Old Folk District. They are requesting approval for the demolition of select additions. This is the aerial on Pinckney Street, and we are ready for the applicant.
Thank you. Dan Sweeney with Stump House. I apologize for my appearance. I left the house today without my long pants and shoes. I've been on job sites all day after seeing you all. Thank you also for meeting.
Out. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Didn't realize it till I I'm starting to head over here. Thank you for meeting me on site this morning. This is an unusual request. Specifically, I've been practicing architecture here in Charleston for the better part of 30 years. And can't say as I've ever had something quite like this, but meaning specifically that we're not putting anything back. This site is a Freedman's Cottage. It's in the middle of the top right photograph here. It's a small one-story Freedman's Cottage. It's the Robin's Egg Blue building. And the research that I did to try and identify what the structures looked like on the site, the Freedman's Cottage first shows up in 1902. In 1928, there's an outbuilding that is shown on the maps, and it is illegible what it is, but in 1944 map, it is clearly labeled a shed. And those two structures remain the same through 51, 55, 63, and 74. It's interesting to note that there are several other buildings around, including in 1974, two single homes that were lost in between 63 and 74. So it wasn't just a straight copy each of these successive years of this parcel, I don't believe. I will say this, this is a survey that from the 1992 edition that I'll talk about here in a minute. And this is dated 1983 and does show a little L-shaped addition that you can see on site today. But there's no record of this in the Sanborn maps, any of the newspaper archives, the BAR files, but it shows up here in the 1983 survey. The request here tonight, the painting street is on your left. The red portions of the building, I believe, potentially are original. They have turned metal roofs, red turned metal roofs. Freedman's Cottage is on the left. The three areas that are gray, they're actually three different colors of gray. It's hard to see from here, but the darkest gray, I believe, is encompassed at one point in time a shed, a porch off the rear of the house, a very small porch, which was enlarged in 1950, somewhere, I think 55 map. But I believe we're looking at three different additions. The only addition that I can substantiate its age is the one with the stairs in it. That is a two-story addition. The other two grade areas are flat roofs, essentially. The one on the left is a TPO roof, and the one on the right-hand side is asphalt shingles, both flat. This, you can see the flat roofs here. And then I had a series of photographs, exterior of the house. Here, we sent a drone up and you can see the roof lines. The bottom right hand is what I believe is the shed building out back. And these additions, I will say then that with the 1992 addition linked the Freedman's Cottage to the shed. Previously, before 1992, you had space out there. And then there's some photographs inside, and walking through the house and crawling under as much as we could with Richard Marks. We exposed some nails to try and see if they were common nails or cut nails. So there's a mix of both. There's a mix of siding. It is very difficult to tell. There are some, it looks like old door frames that have been used but probably moved from one place to another place. There's a lot of good material which will be saved. This is what would have been the rear porch, I believe, a portion of it, but there are no walls. On the left hand, the top left, you can see that it was an exterior at some point in time. That's it.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking?
Catherine Alexander with the Preservation Society of Charleston. We just wanted to offer our thanks to the applicant for meeting with us and for taking our feedback into consideration in choosing to retain that rear portion of this building, which is also historic, and we're happy to support this project. Thank you.
Is there anyone else speaking? Okay, Travis, if you give us any staff comments and recommendations, please.
All right, staff observation, per the Sanborn maps, staff is opposed to demolition of what is being called by the applicant addition 1, as there are portions seen on the 1902 Sanborn map. We are just clarifying that the rear shed is not part of the demo request scope. Staff conditions would be addition number 1, not be demolished. And if approved, this project has to wait 30 days appeal period before a permit could be approved. Our recommendation is approval of demolition with staff and board conditions.
Thank you, Travis. Mr. Twinney, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or the staff comments?
No, I don't, I would only reiterate that the porch that's off the rear of the house, I believe was there and is shown definitely on the Sanborn maps, but was much smaller than what's out there today. I believe it's been fully enveloped. And there's no walls to it, I don't think anymore.
Thank you. All right, public comment in the applicant presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
I'm good. I've got a question for Travis. So Travis, the staff wants them to keep, which addition 1, and it has it's a flat roof back there. That's what you're saying?
It is, yeah, there's no shed to it. Now, it could be buried up under the
Right.
flat roof. I can't get up in there.
Right. Okay.
I don't think staff would necessarily oppose some demolition if that historic portion was able to be identified. But just from the Sanborn, that historic porch is falling into what he's identified as addition 1.
Okay.
So if there was a way to separate those two, I think staff could support it.
Here, the previous porch kind of got consumed by whatever changes occurred. I think on site, we saw a little bit of, we were conflicted because we saw a little bit of original material on that west side at the beginning of addition 2. But I honestly am of the mind that most of this is infill. And maybe pieces were reused from different parts of the building.
Right, what is, the part of it, addition 1, the exterior wall, that would be on the east side. And then on the west side, but that section is apparently later,
Right.
but they both show evidence of earlier material. The windows on the west side are earlier windows. The brick in the foundation looks like it's earlier brick, but it could be repurposed. So, because I think that what is referred to. What's referred to as addition 2 is clearly not there in the 74 Sanborn, so it's clearly later, even though there are some elements there that look much earlier, the 2 windows and the brick foundation. So I think that's probably been repurposed. And on the other side, of course, the same thing is true, and that is that up to 74, you don't see anything but the little back porch or stoop.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's very difficult to kind of hone in on what is visible as being really restored and not repurposed.
I think
Originally historic and not repurposed.
I think if there's anything left of that, if there's anything left of that little small porch, it's very, very little of it. And I think this is sort of a unique opportunity here, is that we, almost any Freedman's cottages you see around town, they've been severely added onto, and they've lost their forms over time. And in this case, I think it's a unique opportunity to actually take a Freedman's cottage and literally turn it back to its original footprint and form. And so any loss of that occurs with maybe a piece of that porch being buried into an addition back there, I welcome that, giving that up in order to largely return this building to its original.
I would think that I could support the demolition of both sections, both gray sections, with the staff condition that every effort be made in the process of the demolition. The construction of addition one, that if there is any evidence of the footprint, there might be underneath there might be a piece of foundation left. If there's evidence of the shape of that original porch, that it be documented so that that porch could be put back on if in a later process. That's the only comment. I agree. Okay, I would make a motion for approval of demolition for addition 2 and addition 3. And approval demolition of addition 1 with the board condition to try to identify the footprint and or form or original material of the original back porch in the process of demolition.
With staff condition 2.
Shed is not included.
Right. We
The- for 30-day appeal period.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
the
sorry.
little shed is not, is not in this application.
Sorry, just the 30-day appeal period.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just, I mean, that's fine.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for approval of demolition, for additions approval of demolition for addition numbers 2 and 3, and approval of demolition of addition number 1 with the board condition that the applicant document any evidence of the original porch during the demolition. And staff comment number 2. Excuse me, staff condition number 2. Do you have a second to Fillmore's motion?
I'll second.
Bill, put the motion to a vote. Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
Becky,
In favor.
Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair votes the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Agenda item 4, 32 Linwood Boulevard. Travis, if you'll give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
All right, 32 Linwood Boulevard is in Charlestown, Council District 8, circa 1942 in the Old and Historic District. They are requesting approval for partial demolition of a CMU and brick veneer wall. This is an aerial. And we are ready for the applicant's presentation.
Hello, I'm Julie Martin with Julie Martin Architects. Thank you all for taking the time to consider this application and even go visit this wall in person this morning. As you probably recall, the dwelling on this property has been approved for demolition and a new dwelling has been approved for construction. But I don't believe the wall was ever, addressed in those applications. The contractor and the owners would like to go ahead and take it down to facilitate demolition and construction. And Wertimer and Klein is working on a redesign of the garden, and they would like to reconsider the vehicular access and also add a proper pedestrian access. So I think it's pretty clear this is not a historic wall or special in any way, but we are here to request the demolition of it. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? Do we have anyone speaking? Travis, if you'll give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
All right, staff observation, the wall is highly visible from Linwood Boulevard. The construction date has not been provided to staff. Staff has not received proposed plans for reconstruction of the wall. And our recommendation is we do not have enough information for approval at staff.
Julia, did you want to respond to or clarify anything?
I was not aware that staff wanted more information. It would have been happy to provide that, but here we are. Thank you all.
All right, public comment in the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
As to the age of the wall, it seems like that's what staff is largely concerned with. Yeah, I think others would agree with me. You know, it's not a terribly old wall. It's a wall that's built out of concrete block. It's a CMU wall. It's been faced with brick. The brick has a Portland cement mortar, so it's not a lime mortar. So this wall, in my eyes, it's not terribly old. It was probably built during one of the additions to the existing house on site. The wall does contribute to the streetscape, so yeah, eventually something does need to go back, but that's a different review there. I'm inclined to support the application.
Are there other comments or should Bill make a motion?
Agreement.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly not an old wall, it's a CMU, and it's a later concrete, but it's not a cinder block wall.
Right.
It's a later
Not
concrete
cinder
block.
block.
So, I mean, I don't think it's old, and the only issue I would have at all is ultimately what goes back, and we have board has approval of that. So I don't have a lot of anxiety about it.
I would make a motion for approval. As submitted.
We have a motion on the floor for approval of demolition. Do I have a second to Becky's motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Daryl. Put the motion to a vote. Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
Becky,
Yay in favor.
Daryl.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair votes to the majority and the motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 5, 190 Nassau Street. Travis, if you'll give us an introduction and overview of the project, please.
190 Nassau Street on the east side, Council District 4. It is unrated circa 1910 in our Historic Materials Demolition Purview District. They're requesting after the fact approval for partial demolition, including exterior walls and back addition. Here is a aerial of the property, and we are ready for the applicant.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Disu. I'm the owner and general contractor of the property at 190 Nassau Street. This is actually our second time back here. But it's good to see you guys, and I always appreciate your time. Last time the agenda item was split into two. For one of them, there was we were instructed to work with preservation staff on the resubmittal for the existing structure. We are in the process of doing that now. We submitted the revised plans to staff on May 5th. We have not yet had a meeting to discuss them. We're waiting for initial comments, and I did just have those initial comments, those plans here. So they are in the public view. And me bringing that up is just to reiterate the fact that we are open to any kind of collaboration or input from anyone in the preservation community as we work to bring this building back. You know, the historic fabric of this building was under a lot of modern sidings and weird things, you know, asbestos. So as we bring it back, we're open to any kind of input from anybody who may have some input. So I know that's not what we're here to discuss today, so I don't want to spend too much time there, but we've had a stop work order on this property since March 27th, which is 56 days ago from today. And the last meeting that we appeared in front of you guys here was on April 24th, which is 28 days ago. And to be honest, from the time that we received the stop work order up until quite literally like the start of the last meeting, as we were first on the agenda, I really didn't have a clear understanding as to what we had done wrong or where it was. But that meeting did bring light in kind of a confusing way, but it did help clarify what we were essentially being accused of at that moment. And it was helpful for us. But that item ended up being deferred with the hopes from the board to get a better understanding of what that timeline was. And still, I mean, this is what I can tell you guys. And I spoke a lot on this property's recent history last meeting, so I won't go into too much detail there, but you know, a high level recap is that this property was utterly neglected and forgotten about for around 30 years. In that time, it became flat out dangerous, a magnet for crime, drugs, homelessness. There were dangerous fires, countless code enforcement violations and visits. And I have to mention as well as a friend of ours was actually murdered on this site. I purchased this property on August 11th, 2023. When I bought this property, I brought all the negative stigma that from the neighborhood that came with it. And my team and I, we worked as quickly as possible to clean it up and secure it for the neighborhood, it's important to know that's something that the previous owners really neglected to do. Our first step in developing a plan for the property was commissioning a survey, and that survey is the survey you see here today. That's the same survey that underpins the plans that I showed you guys earlier. And that is the same survey that underpins the plan that I was given a permit based on in March when we started the work. And that's really what I can tell you. I will add that the structure has been on stilts for 56 days now, and our job site has sat idle. Over the last 56 days, the weeds are coming back, the overgrowth is coming back. We've had theft on the site, and our trusses and framing is borderline ruined. These are steps in the wrong direction. We're moving further or further away from the progress that this property deserves. This has been a hard time for my family, for my team, and for my family and I, both financially and personally. And yet it seems after 56 days, we still don't really have any clarity on what's going on here, what exactly is missing, because quite simply, and unfortunately, there really is no clear record of what was there. Because if there was, we'd be rebuilding it, and we'd be rebuilding it properly. So thanks again for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions. That's all I have for you guys tonight.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Disu. Is there anyone speaking?
Lisa Jones, Historic Charleston Foundation. We have reviewed the application for 190 Nassau Street again, and we have the same comments that we had at the last BAR meeting in April. We recommend not granting the after the fact demolition request and ask instead that the applicant restore the house to its original condition, including materials and form, before moving forward with any more alterations to the building. We also, I would like to add that we would love to have communication with the applicant. We have not been in communication with the applicant. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Anna Catherine Alexander with the Preservation Society of Charleston. We echo the comments of Historic Charleston Foundation and that we would welcome the chance to speak with the applicant to be a resource if we can during this process. I think it's unfortunate that since the last meeting, we haven't really reached any point of resolution on the issue with the rear of the property, but I think we would urge, per our previous comments, timely attention to the building in its current condition, accurate reconstruction based on drawings that are clear as to what is proposed for restoration in comparison to the building's historic form. Based on this submittal, side-by-side comparisons of as-built conditions and proposed elevations would have been helpful. But based on our review, the drawings appear to honor existing fenestration patterns and include in-kind replacement of materials as far as we can tell. So we remain optimistic that much of the intact historic material that's there can be repaired to preserve as much of the structure's integrity as possible. And we just urge that resolution be reached so that work can resume soon. Thank you.
Is there anyone else speaking? Travis, if you give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
All right, staff observations. To clarify, this request is for after the fact demolition of the rear approximately 30 feet of Freedman's Cottage. The only additional documentation staff has received from the last meeting is the notarized letter from the applicant. Per Google satellite image, you can see the rear 30 feet of the Freedman's Cottage. And per the street view, the rear addition of the Freedman's Cottage is still visible in the 2023 on Nassau Street. Our recommendation is the board is to confirm that if their previous motion has been met.
Thank you, Travis. Mr. Deasy, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or the city staff comments and
I
recommendations?
would love to, thank you. So a couple things, obviously first to address, both the studies, we, in the time of the last meeting, it took us some time to develop the plan to get into a meeting or anything like that, but I am relieved to hear what you had said, and we are more than willing to work with you guys to schedule times onto the site to look at it, and, we will work hard to, open up that communication, but the lack of communication is nowhere near a sign of our unwillingness to work with you guys and try to, again, preserve and bring back what was really covered up with modern construction. So we'll be happy to study that with you and to bring that back. The only thing I would say back to staff is that there were photos from the last meeting, but again, none of those photos were from or after the time that we had owned the property. And then in closing, I understand the stigma of an after effect approval, but in this case, an approval, as you had mentioned, Kevin, is that, an approval lets us get back to work on restoring what's still there and doing it properly. But I'll have to ask, and I hope you will consider what a denial actually looks like here. Because how do we build back something that has no record? How do we move forward if the standard is to rebuild what unfortunately no one really cared to document? As this mentioned, it's an unranked property, so in 1985 it had a negative state, But let me tell you what an approval I believe would do. It moves this corner of the neighborhood one step closer to rejoining the community. It lets us continue restoring this Freedman's Cottage, and it allows us to turn a dangerous, forgotten lot into a place of value again. I really truly believe that that's what this property deserves. I believe that's what the East Side neighborhood deserves. And I really do know firsthand from the dozens of people in the time that we were able to work. I'm telling you, I've done projects in the city, renovations. I can't tell you the overwhelming amount of people that would walk by, people who have been in the neighborhood for 30 years, people who just moved in, the college students on the corner, people driving by, literally honking their horns, rolling the windows out, saying, finally, thank you guys. And that's the truth. I know it's what the community wants for us to finish restoring this property, and that's what I hope that you guys will allow us to do tonight. So, thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Deasy. All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
Couple of questions for staff. What is that? I'm a little confused about exactly what the middle is for, because it says requesting after the fact approval for partial demolition, including exterior walls and back addition. If I'm remembering correctly, and I don't have notes from 2 meetings ago in front of me, but I think that the question about the segment of the building that we are looking at in the drawings here, after the fact was denied, and that the building was to be, that part of the building was to the remaining part, the part that's still standing and braced up, that we denied demolition of the siding, the fenestration, the porch, and all that was, I think, the instructions were simply to work with staff to come to get approval of a process to put that back in the original form. I could be wrong about that, and then we deferred the question of the back addition, which had been demolished, for more information. And so, are we looking at anything other than the that deferral coming back about the back addition?
You say addition, you mean the original 30 feet?
Well, no, not the front part of the house, but the back 30 feet of it that
Yeah.
was just gone.
But it wasn't an addition, it was,
Oh, okay, it was just, okay, I was, for some reason,
so
I
I
was
believe,
thinking in my
Frankie,
head.
correct me if I'm
There was
wrong.
some question about whether that was a later,
No, not per Sanborn's.
okay.
I believe, and Frankie, correct me if I'm wrong, but this portion here was the first part of that motion,
Mm-hmm,
and that, per his drawings, has been.
right. And that's in
rebuilt.
process.
Yes, absolutely, yeah, and he
And
has
so
submitted
it's,
those
it's,
drawings.
it's what to do about the back 30
Yes.
feet.
We denied it, which effectively he needed to put it back, which
Right.
was, so it was sort of in line with his drawings. So I think it is only the back 30 feet.
So the back 30 feet of that building, which is gone and we have no record of,
Yeah.
other than what you can see on Google Earth.
That back corner from it.
Right, there isn't any more information on that.
And, yeah, and has staff, do we have any additional
There is
information?
a plat showing the property prior to the demolition.
So we have boundaries, we have dimensions, but
There was, the last time there was a survey from 5 years before that didn't match the Sanborn maps. I thought that was why you had said that there was an addition.
No, for the Sanborns, that was the original dimensions of it. It roughly matched what that original plat, prior to this plat showed.
Right, I think it was
And
unclear.
do we know the date of this plat?
2024.
What
So
is
it's-
it?
right,
It's-
it's a
it
few months after
looked like it
development.
was either July or September of 2024, but I'm not sure. It's not in what I have. It's not a complete photograph.
It's
Image.
September of 2024. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
But
I just
still,
wanted to get my head around
Yeah.
again what we're actually dealing
it
with.
still seems unclear that when that demolition occurred, whether it's attributable to the applicant. Whether it was demoed to build a new building in the back, or whether it was already gone.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know that there's any more information on that. I mean, the restoration of the front can proceed.
Yes.
If they work with, I think the directive was to work with staff on that and move that forward.
I think what makes this hard is normally when we have these after the facts, we have lots of pictures and things and we can say, look, that's what was there, put it back. And this one, I don't want to reward that there's no pictures, but I also recognize we need to allow preservation of the front, which I don't think that, and I think they can start, but if there's a potential, they could have to put on 30 feet to the back. I think we get further problems with the front of the building.
Are we certain that there was another 30 feet of original building? Because
Per the Sanborn.
You can go to Google Earth right now.
Actually, you can look at the
and
area.
get a slightly dated
You can look
shot from Google Earth and it's there. I looked at
But
it today.
was it original to the building?
The roof looks continuous from, as best I can tell from Google Earth, but I was uncertain from the discussion last time whether there might have been some question as to maybe that was an addition, but
Yeah.
and the roof in the Google Earth image that I looked at today, the building is clearly twice as long, give or take,
Right, it's pretty
as
similar.
is represented here or on the plat. And the roof is continuous.
Okay.
And it's a red turn roof that doesn't have a vision.
Yeah, I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I'm playing a little bit of catch up. I mean, because when I look at this from the side view, these little Freeman's cottages, they're typically 2 rooms.
Yeah.
One room on each side of the fireplace, so,
That's why you keep
That's
calling it
why I
an
kept
addition,
thinking that
right?
maybe that was a
And
later addition.
later additions, kind of what my gut feeling would be.
Bill, if it's helpful, this is the picture, these are the pictures, these are studio images, what we keep getting stuck on. So this is November 2023. November, I'm sorry, that was January 2023, and then November.
Yeah,
So what we heard at the last meeting,
Yeah.
this was essentially collapsed and they were in the process of cleaning up the site, just it was all vegetation over here, they just took it down, so.
Okay. Well, I not knowing what that additional 30 feet looked like, I mean, I would say, you could, what's there now is ready for rehab, for putting, piecing it back together, and then they, work with staff on an appropriate new addition to go on the back if they're wanting more space. I mean, because without knowing what it looked like, I mean, we don't know what's.
So right now, there's no ability, there's a structure
There's another
now
building back there.
built
They
where
built a
that
new building
addition
back
would
there.
have gone.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah,
There's already a building built.
that's what
Okay.
makes this really hard.
Okay, yeah, this is, okay,
This is what.
all right.
This makes me want to give a really hard scolding, and even if it was collapsed at the time,
Right.
people need to be careful what they're removing. But
There's just. None of the appropriate steps
Right.
taken to even to document to get approved. The moms or the building moms, or actually even to do some of the things that were in the front part of the building, but that's salvageable, so that's correctable. The back part of the building is not, and they have subsequently built structure back there, which you couldn't.
And it's unclear if it's this applicant or it was
Right.
a previous owner.
yeah,
And I think that was,
so this is not one I'd feel would be going against any precedent. They're just unfortunate.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah. And I'll just say I'm in favor of approving it, and I say that and I cringe because we never approve these, but in this particular case, I'm in favor of approving this to allow the preservation of the front part of the house to
Right.
move forward.
And I would encourage you to work with the preservation group. They're a wealth of knowledge, and they have an amazing ability to dig stuff up that through research that, you'd be surprised at what they can find sometimes, and they can advise you on the fenestration and detailing and all what needs to go back. They're very, very good at that kind of stuff. So,
The first thing I do.
yeah.
Anybody else have comments before I ask for a motion? Well, did you want to make a motion, or is,
Having not been here, knowing the complete history meeting,
yeah,
I would prefer someone else.
okay. I don't typically make motions. But I will take the heat in this case since this is a hard one for me to make. But
maybe he wants to endorse the after the fact.
I don't, and I'll put it on the record that this is upsetting, but I'm also, we don't know who did this. We don't know what it looks like other than having some shots of the roof and a sidewall. Anyways, I will make a motion for approval. How do I want to word this? Well, I guess, is this the only thing left in the application? So I can just approve the after the fact demolition, okay. I'll make a motion for approval of after the fact demolition. I won't add begrudgingly to it, but, okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Daryl. Put the motion to a vote. Belmore,
I opposed.
Becky,
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill.
Yeah, in favor.
The chair votes to the majority and the motion passes 4-4 and 1 against. Thank you, Mr. Disu. Okay, agenda item 6, 134 Diamond Avenue. Travis, if you'll give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
134 Donovan Avenue, it is in Wagner Terrace, Council District 6. Is a Group 2, Category 4 in the Historic Materials Demolition Purview, circa 1947. They are requesting approval for partial demolition of all back sections of the gable roof. Here is a aerial, and we are ready for the applicant's presentation.
Sorry, I think I said my name last time, Joel Adrian, Coastal Creek Design here for 134 Donovan. I think you all reviewed this maybe last meeting, May 8th, and I was not able to be here. It is back because the decision at the time was approval for the demolition, but to lower the proposed new roof to be at least 12 inches below the existing ridge. And so I'm here asking if we can, if you all would modify that and just allow us to go 4 inches below the ridge. We are not going to remove that ridge, it will remain. And so the drawing I really want to kind of focus on is that little middle section. It's right there. So if you look at the middle section, the existing like 1x6 ridge is going to stay there, and we are proposing a new ridge underneath because the existing little 1x6 is not going to carry the load of new rafters going on it. So you know, our drawings to you are showing that that existing height and that front elevation will not change. We will only be modifying the rear portion of the roof. The dormer wall that we're proposing was only 6 feet 8 inches on the original drawing, and so if we drop this down, then really the project becomes not buildable. And so we're just hopeful that you allow us to maintain that. I think there was a question about whether the overhangs, the eaves were going to remain. They will remain. We are going to remove that rear portion of the gable, the front elevation will remain the same. And then I think that there is one request. You see that little small area up towards the gable end of brick. We would like to remove that just to be able to put a window in. I think I'll go to those pictures there so you can see the house. I think that covers it. Really, it was giving you information so you know that the existing ridge will remain, height of that roof will not change. We'll just be working on the back half.
Are there any questions, keeping in mind that we do not know what you were doing?
Yes.
We are only considering the removal.
Right. The demolition is going to be, you're requesting 4 inches off the ridge.
Correct.
And how many inches in from the eaves?
Existing, which there really isn't much, but the existing eaves will remain around that house. And you've got the brick portion, so we're going to stack on the stud portion of the house.
Okay, so it will be the what will remain then will be the little the trim and the thickness of the brick, and you're gonna come off the frame.
Correct.
Behind
All of
the
that,
veneer.
yeah.
Okay.
All that will stay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
4 inches.
Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking?
So Jones Historic Charleston Foundation, I'll be short and sweet here. We reviewed the application and we'd like to request that the demolition footprint be pinched in and reduced in scale more to minimize the visual impact. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking? Okay. Travis, could you give the city staff comments and recommendations, please?
All right, staff observations. To clarify, the applicant is requesting an alteration to a previously board approval by providing new information, and that new information has addressed some of the previous concerns by the board. Staff's recommendation is approval as submitted.
Thank you, Travis. Joel, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the comments?
No, so thank you.
Public comment in the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote. We did do what we asked at the last meeting. It's just less. But I'll let the people with design brains on the board know if 4 inches is okay versus I think we asked for a foot, yeah.
I think I made the motion the last time. We asked for a foot off the ridge and a foot off the sides. And they've come back with more information where they have a clear dimension of 7 foot 1 inches is what they need. I would be in favor of approving it. It'd be nice if they'd step it in a foot on the sides, but if they don't, it's kill me.
They're, actually, they want to frame off the wall. I mean, I can logically understand that.
Yeah.
And it's going to give them about 4 or 5 inches, I think. Yeah, it'll be a tricky little collection detail. I'm not opposed.
Do we make a motion?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the design,
Approve as submitted.
approve as submitted, in agreement with staff.
We have a motion on the floor for approval as submitted. Do I have a second to Daryl's motion?
A second.
Thank you, Becky. Put the motion to a vote. Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
Becky.
Yeah, in favor.
The chair votes for the majority and the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great evening.
Agenda item 7, 194 Trad Street. Travis, if you give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
194 Trad Street. It is in Charlestown, Council District 8, Category 4, circa 1920 in the Old Historic District. They are requesting conceptual approval for a 1-story addition. This is an aerial of the property, and we are ready for the applicant.
Good evening. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Frankie. Sebastian Von Marshall, I'm the architect, requesting conceptual approval for this renovation and addition at 194 Trad Street. The house, as Travis pointed out, is circa 1920. It's a, I think, arts and crafts style, 4-square, pretty standard. At a corner of Trad Street that really has a pretty diverse number of buildings. 2 doors down from us is the house that DuBose Hayward grew up in, for example. You have the Chisholm Rice Mill at the end of the peninsula there. And then, of course, you have the Andrew Murray Vocational School that was built around 1923, just around the corner. So some old Sanborn maps. You can see the original footprint of the house. It does not appear in 1902. It appears in 1944. And then again in 1955, right here. There are some other additions that were added, that were put on subsequently. There's a carport on the east side and a addition on the back. I'll get to that in a second. Some more aerial images here. You can see that the house is visible. The proposed addition is visible across the front lawn of the Coast Guard station there. Again, some of the context. So we have Colonial Revival right next door. We have the DuBose Hayward's childhood home around the corner, or 2 doors down, and then a combination of various other revival styles on Murray and Trad. Here's the house itself. The proposed location of the addition is at the back, which you can see in the bottom left corner here. This addition itself does not appear in a 1980 tax map of the property, so we do not believe it is historic, and it's certainly not original to the house. Some precedent images that I'm going to introduce just because I'm going to touch on some of the differentiated windows that we're going to be proposing at the back. The one on the left is at 50 South Battery. Those are steel windows, and then the one on the right should be very familiar. Those are the steel windows at the Chisholm Street Apartments location. Property backs up to the existing and proposed site plans. You can see the current mudroom that is the non-historic addition on the back of the house. It's about 4.5 feet by 8.5 feet. It's kind of a rear entrance spillover space from the kitchen that's immediately adjacent. And what we're proposing is to expand that and create a larger mudroom and family room and scullery really off of the kitchen, which is very small itself. The kitchen is only about 10 feet by 12 feet. It's a galley. And this room will kind of add some much needed storage and auxiliary space at the back of the house. Existing first floor plan, proposed first floor plan, existing roof plan, proposed roof plan. The house currently has a hip roof. We're proposing to add similar roof at the back. No real change that's visible from the front. You can see here the addition on the back that extends where the existing addition would be removed. You can see the proposed steel windows and door. and a new masonry stoop, as well as a brick chimney on the back. The rear addition facing north. And the addition facing west, and this would really be the only part, well, this side of the house would be most visible across the front lawn of the Coast Guard station. The east elevation may be partially visible across neighboring backyards into the parking lot of the Chisholm Street Apartments, but it's fairly obscured, so this is really the majority of what you would see, another steel window there. And that's it. We shared our drawings with the adjacent neighbors, and we shared our drawings with the preservation groups as well, and we have not had any negative feedback. The owner is here as well, Ms. Laura Whitman-Hip, and I believe she will speak during public comment. Thank you very much.
Any questions for the applicant?
Question. The new roof of the addition is called out as metal. I think the existing roof is copper. Will it be copper as well, do you think, or?
It will, that's what we'd like to do.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking from the public?
This has been a long time coming. My husband and I bought the house when I was 9 months pregnant 27 years ago. We talked about doing this, but then there was tuition for 3 children. Jesus said there would be great perplexity among the nations concerning the seas and the roaring of its waves. We have been the witness, front row seats to hurricanes. We had the millennial flood 2015, and Preston and I kayaked from our front porch through the streets of Charleston. Then Hurricane Matthew came October 8th, and then Hurricane Irma. And we were flooded, but not inside the house. I am going to have this step up, be 1 step up from the kitchen level. I want to be able to place things that otherwise turn to rust in the storage area. I also want to have a fireplace at the back of this addition so that I can have a source of heat, because disasters are happening all over the world and we are not immune to them here. I want to have a wood burning stove as well as an open fireplace like I grew up with. I want to be able to hang my bicycle on a hook inside that addition. I hadn't told you that yet. And I want to hang my lawnmower up in there as well, because it's an electric lawnmower that I push myself. I have put the house in trust for our children. I am not making these additions to make money on selling this property. My property taxes went up after I put on a new copper roof. I had to delay this for, I think it was 5 years. So I'm back now after that period is over. But I wanted a roof that would last. That's why I did it, because the insurance adjuster said, your roof is shot. I said, great, well, how much will you give me to put a new one on? He said, it's been over 25 years. So I got nothing towards the copper roof. So I want my children not to have to worry about it. And our children will not be able to sell it in the trust for 30 years. And they'll each have a turn to live in it for 10 years. And I hope that they will then decide not to sell it, but to put it in a trust for our grandchildren. And we have a 3-year-old and an 11-month-old as of today. And I want my children to be able to live in the manner in which they grew up. They all grew up in this house. And I am thankful to live where I live. I'm thankful to be a born and raised Charlestonian and still able to live downtown. And I am a preservationist, and I was actually on the board of the Preservation Society of Charleston, and I worked for the Historic Charleston Foundation under Francis Edmonds, and that was foundational in my life. And I have preserved the interior. I've preserved the kitchen. It's still the original kitchen. It's got the original cypress cabinets. And I want to have cypress walls to continue that theme going into the mudroom. And I hope that y'all will give me approval, because I've been waiting a long time for this addition. Thank you very much.
there anyone else speaking from the public? Okay, Travis, could you give us city staff comments and recommendations, please?
Staff observation, staff is comfortable with the height scale and mass of the addition. Our recommendation is for conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff of permit drawings.
Thank you, Travis. Mr. Von Marshall or Ms. Hip, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the staff comments?
No, thank you.
All right, public comment on the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
Thanks. It's fine. It's the house nicely. It certainly is appropriate. High scale and mass in the architectural direction is like that. I only have one little observation. Other than hoping that my roof would be copper actually, and not Galvalume. And that is that the small windows on the rear seem to be pushed right against the corner boards of the bump out for the fireplace. I don't know. And it could be just, there could be some space in there graphically. It's such a small point. Sure.
203, I think.
There, okay.
Right there.
Yeah.
So they seem to be pushed right against the corner.
A question about the architectural vocabulary. Matching of the materials to the main house with the exception of the steel windows and doors.
The only thing I noticed was that the siding, I mean, was there something, I mean, obviously siding is the same, but it might be nice to have it.
I think everything was the same except the windows and doors. That was sort of my question was.
You know, maybe vary the siding profile.
I was thinking that,
Yeah.
that you might vary the exposure on the side or something, just so it reads as a little more definitively as a later addition. And the windows certainly are different.
Had two small things, very small things, and the door and the window on the east elevation, just as a way to get rid of those little small runs of siding, maybe that door and window could be molded. And then on the opposite side, I just question why that's the only window with shutters. Other than that, I think that's a great design.
Did anyone want to make a motion? Or you can ask the applicant questions if those are questions or they just general observation.
Those are restudy.
I think those are restudied.
But this can be done at staff
I
level.
think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Bill, did you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for conceptual approval with preliminary and final reviews by staff with conditions that the two rear windows flanking the fireplace be studied in their placement. The shutters on the, which side was that? The west side be eliminated. The window and door on the east side be molded. Was there anything else?
The siding profile.
Oh, and vary the siding profile from the main body of the building.
Can you repeat 3? Window and door on which elevation?
Yeah, the door and the window on the east elevation to be molded.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff and permit drawings with a few board conditions. First, that the placement of the rear windows be restudied. Sorry. 2, that the shutters on the west elevation be eliminated. 3, that the window and door on the east elevation be molded. And then 4, to vary the siding profile in the addition. Do you have a second to Bill's motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Daryl. I'll put the motion to vote. Becky?
Yay in favor.
Fillmore?
Yeah, in favor.
Bill?
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl?
Yeah, in favor.
The chair votes to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8, 63 Kennedy Street. Travis, could you give us an introduction overview of the project, please?
63 Kennedy Street is in the West Side neighborhood, Council District 6. It is new construction in the Old City District. They are requesting conceptual approval for a new single-family dwelling. This is the location of the current lot, and we have the applicant's presentation.
Good evening. My name is Chelsea Anderson with Capital Form. I'm presenting tonight requesting conceptual approval for new construction of a single family home on vacant lot. We can go forward a few slides to the aerial view. So here's our site in red, just the third lot in from the corner of President Street. And one thing to note on President Street is that all these homes are fairly new, and then all these homes down Kennedy are fairly old. So we're in like this transition zone of where we are with the site. So we'll go forward a slide. We're in the flood zone 8E11. That'll be important to note, talking about height. Next slide. Here's our site. We were granted from the Board of Zoning Appeals approval for a lot of insufficient size for a single family dwelling. Next slide. You'll see the grade here is really low. 4.8 is kind of the average highest grade here. Next photo. And this is the site photo of the vacant lot. Next photo. Here, kind of looking at it from angles down the street. Next slide. And some inspiration here. This is a pretty new house, but I thought it had cute character to it. You know, we can get inspiration from newer homes on the street. It's like craftsman style, has this cute little detail on the gable, just really simple detailing, nice little front porch. Next slide. And then this was taking kind of a survey of the street, that there's a lot of these planters in front of the homes, since this street is at an angle that is different than the homes. They've kind of all filled that negative space with little planters or little fences or little stoops, porches, some even playing with that angle by doing a curved roof, if you'll see the photo in the far right. So I thought that was a really interesting dynamic to this street just on Kennedy. And even some of the new construction homes on President Street took inspiration from that with their elevated stoops with the large stairs. They tried to like reduce that scale with the planters in the front. This would be the new construction home on the corner in the center two photos. Next slide. And then a lot of the homes on the street have red roofs, so that was an interesting characteristic of the street. Next slide. So now getting into the renderings of our proposal here. So with our proposal, we had to raise the first floor to the design flood elevation, and with such a low grade as pointed out, it makes for a tall foundation. But we have chose to put the parking alongside of the house rather than under, and fill that negative space in the front like the homes that we saw along the street with this planter bed that helps to reduce that scale of that high foundation, and provide a friendly place that you can perch up on from the street. Next slide. And so here you can see it's subtle, but like a red roof to tie into the other homes on the street. I know it's early for color, but something we'd like to incorporate to tie into the materials of the street. And since we're on such a very small lot, we couldn't fit a full front porch, but we managed to squeeze in a small balcony off of the front bedroom and a little front entry porch. And still like kind of tucking those stairs under that entry as well to give a little bit more of a grand feeling to a very small house. And we took inspiration from the simple form of detailing of 35 Kennedy, as I pointed out earlier, with that clean detailing, minimal trim, but a little bit more contemporary. We want this home to read as today, this home. Next slide. And so you'll see here we have like a base, middle, and top with a smooth stucco base of the foundation. And in the middle is a smooth fiber cement board. And then the top is lap siding. Next slide. Now we're getting into the working drawings. This site was also granted a variance from the setback requirements from the Board of Zoning Appeals when they asked for a lot of insufficient size, so the side setbacks are smaller. Next slide. This home is over a crawl space in which we plan to use for parking, I mean, not parking, parking to the side, storage below, and accessing that from the rear. Next slide. So just some very efficient floor plans fitting on this very tight lot. Next slide. Next slide. Standing seam metal roof. Next slide. And these are the elevations. Go through those until we get to the street elevations. So the street elevations, I wanted to point out that design flood elevation. You'll see we're building right to it. I mean, we're just like inches above with the finished floor, but all of the other buildings along most of Kennedy have not been raised yet. So in the future, there'll be a lot of change on this street when it comes to height. Across the street, you'll see this is a start of the new construction homes that are along President Street. But they chose to go with a different strategy within the 2.5-story height district. They're 1.5 stories above a story of parking because they do have like an alley or lane right here that they're utilizing to enter the garages from the rear. Next slide. So that concludes my presentation and I'd be happy to take any questions.
What are your floor ceiling heights on each floor?
I think it's 9 feet, probably 10 feet on the first floor and then 9 on the second. We'd have to go to the elevations to confirm.
9 feet, it's like 8'5" to 17.6 is the first floor.
Yeah, they're 9 and 9, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so really reasonable, because we can't fit in a lot of stairs in this house, it's tight.
I was just wondering if there was any play to
I know, with the height, yeah, I mean, I really tried to squeeze on this one, for sure, yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking from the public?
Anna Catherine Alexander with the Preservation Society of Charleston. This proposal undoubtedly represents a flood zone driven departure from the character and the scale of this small scale streetscape, but we do appreciate the effort to mitigate the foundation height and gesture towards the architectural character of the West Side neighborhood. In this vein, a detailed comment is that we specifically encourage restudy of the proposed sliding glass door on the front elevation in favor of options more in keeping with the urban character of the surrounding properties. Thank you.
Hi, Lisa Jones with Historic Charleston Foundation. We reviewed the application for conceptual approval of the single-family dwelling at 63 Kennedy. And we believe as this is designed, the structure does not fit into the context of the surrounding one-story homes. We request that this will be redesigned and reduced in scale. Thank you.
Is there anyone else speaking? Travis, could you give the city staff comments and recommendations, please?
All right, staff's observations. This appears to be elevated above DFE. We would suggest that is confirmed by the applicant. We do appreciate how the planter obscures the foundation. And I have included here a principle for new construction referring to the verticality of windows. Our conditions for approval would be remove sliding door front porch to simplify the siding material appearance and restudy windows. Our recommendation would be conceptual approval with board and staff conditions and preliminary and final review by staff with permit drawings.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comments or the city staff comments and recommendations?
Yeah. I'll address the comment about the sliding glass door. I mean, I really struggled with that as well. It's a tight bedroom and So that's why I didn't have a French door swinging in, but I'd be happy to accommodate that with a French door if we think it's gonna look better. It's just a space saving thing as to why it was a sliding door. And then the scale, I mean, this really is flood zone driven. I mean, I tried to go as low as I could with everything and designing just inches above the DFE to allow the builders some tolerance on the construction site so that we don't go to get a flood elevation certificate and be under, you know, that would really risk your insurance. So I just want to be safe rather than sorry and allow some tolerance there. But that's all. Thank you.
All right, public comment to the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
See, I now have a question since brought it up. I'm a little bit confused. The numbers are confusing. So you're showing the AE 11, but then the DFE is 11 plus 2, but it's called out as 1411.
I had the same exact comment.
So
So it's actually 3'11" and not 2 feet based on,
the numbers.
yeah. If you look at, say, the west elevation where you're in and also if grade is at 4.9 and you round it off to 5, and then DFE is at 11, that's 6 feet higher, but then that planter dimension is 2.5 feet.
Yeah, so I have DFE as 11 as like survey point 11. So I'm doing that, they're at 2 different heights. So I have DFEs at the survey
I don't know what that means.
point. So like it's pulling from like grade. So it's like
Okay.
if grade is at 4 feet, the elevation is at 11 feet. The DFE is 11, 12, 13, so 13 feet, right?
Are you saying like 1411 minus the 4'9"? Would that make sense?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So that's how it's adding up.
Well, it looks like more than 2 feet between the BFE and the DFE. But
That's what's confusing to us.
Sorry, yeah, I'll try to make it more clear, but
like if the ground, I understand that the ground, you're calling it at 4.9, and then I see the
Yeah.
BFE at 11. So that would be like 6 feet.
Right.
But then
It should be
the
6.
DFE looks much higher than that.
So is the drawing wrong? Is that calculation of DFE wrong?
I guess, how high is the first floor above grade?
How high is the first floor above grade?
yeah, so that we can pull that from what the floor says, what does it say, 8'5"? Yeah, 8'5" is, so grade is 0, then 8'5".
Grade is.
So, yeah, okay, well, I can do my math now.
Sorry, math, you guys do math. So it's 13 feet. 13.3 is the height of the first floor,
The finished floor is
Mhm.
13.3.
and DFE is 13 feet. Because we're 11 plus 2. Sorry, I made it confusing, but the math works, trust me.
So the finished floor is 5 inches above DF.
It's 0.3 feet. So what is that, inches, 0.3?
Right in there. So that's fine, right?
I think we've allowed up to a foot.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that now that I understand it better. It's an interesting project because if you look at the, I guess it's sheet 28 and the streetscape, everything's nice and low, but everything's way below DFE, whatever you want to call it. And so this house is really towering over everybody, but in the end, the other guys are gonna have to come up.
And I understand it's a small lot. I get the need to do a 2-story, but
doesn't seem fair to say you can only have a one-story house.
No, it's not an overly large square footage.
Right.
To start with, and if you cut that in half, you're talking tiny house size.
Then the math doesn't work to build anything.
I don't think it's unreasonable to do a two-story house on such a little small lot.
Yeah.
So it sounds like height and scale are okay. How about architectural direction?
The only really main thing that I struggle with is the three different materials, one per floor. I personally think that the two occupied floors should be of one size. It's just a personal preference of mine. I think the planter wall helps with the scale. I think the internalizing the stairs into the porch, I think that helps with the scale. So I think she's done what she can to kind of try to overcome some of that.
I agree. I appreciate that planter in the front that seems to take away. Like we see a lot of these, some of these raised homes just look
Yeah.
like they're on top of an odd base, and I think you did a good job here.
And
I agree with staff about the sliding
Oh, yeah,
doors.
I do too.
I think just, and this is for preliminary or final, but somehow the overhang looks better in the rendering than it does in the elevation. Looks like there's just a little more overhang, like a little bit more typical. So I think not that that's getting down to those details. I agree with you about the one siding material. Preferably the lap siding, not the.
Yeah, I would prefer the lap siding. It's going to relate to its neighbors better.
Brimstone scale.
Yeah.
Are we moving towards a motion, or
Can I make a motion? Are you all ready?
we can make a motion?
Can I make a motion for conceptual approval? With preliminary and final by staff and the architect to restudy the sliding front door and the siding material on the first and second floor to consider one material opposed to two.
So I have a motion on the floor for conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff of permit drawings with two board conditions to restudy the sliding door at the porch and restudy the siding material appearance to consider one material on first and second floor. Okay, do I have a second to Daryl's motion? Becky? Put the motion to a vote. Fillmore?
Yeah, in favor.
Bill?
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl?
Yeah, in favor.
Becky?
Yeah.
The chair votes the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 9, 13 Trumbo Street. Travis, will you give us an introduction, overview of the project, please?
13 Trumbo Street is in Charleston Village Council District 8. It is new construction in the old historic district. They are requesting conceptual approval of a new single-family dwelling. This is an aerial view. And we are ready for the applicant's presentation.
Good evening. I'm Julie O'Connor with American Vernacular. I'm the designer on this project. We were before you a few months ago for the demolition of the ranch style house on this property. And we received a zoning variance a couple of weeks ago for the front setback. So we're back with a new house. So this is a site plan. As you can see, there's a large magnolia in the corner of the property. It's quite pretty. It has a very balanced and symmetrical canopy. And you'll see that we're trying to do some one-story elements to sort of, tuck under those. You'll see that in a second. But this is just showing you that we've asked for front setback variance and have received it. Some Sanborn, some maps, this streetscape, this is a really interesting, this side of the street is a really interesting and unusual streetscape. Essentially, there's only 3 houses that actually face Trumbo Street. And then there's 2 structures, one on each corner. So on the left of this top image, you see that the corner is some attached housing that was built in 1969. And then the next house you see is the ranch that is there that we're demolishing. Next house is a house built around 1920. It's a 2-story house, kind of sits right on the ground, unfortunately, because we are in a flood zone here. Our grade is about 4.3, and we're in an AE 11. So the next house was a house that was designed and built in 2018, 2019. It's fully elevated, as you can see. And then the next is the corner. So that doesn't face Trumbo, so it's kind of a weird, little funny street. Across the street, a little bit more cohesion with the architecture, and you can see second in from the right there that house is being elevated at the moment. Lots of fun going on in this little neighborhood. So this is our streetscape showing the scale. We're going with a sort of a 2.5 story, well, it's 1.5 story over parking. You can see in this image that we're not that much taller than the 1920s house next door that's sitting down on the ground. If that were elevated, it would be taller than we are. My client's actually been talking with the people the various owners of the attached housing. They're talking about trying to elevate. Then, of course, we have the 2018 house that is elevated and is taller than we are. So from a scale height perspective, I think we're right in the zone. Ground floor plan, first floor plan, second floor plan, roof plan. So like I was discussing on the front, we were thinking about doing some 1-story elements. The 1-story element on the left, sort of tucking under that pretty canopy of the magnolia tree. And then the 1-story element on the right that sort of balances that and creates this beautiful entry situation. We thought it'd be so pretty to have the entry at the ground floor and not have a big set of stairs, taking up some valuable real estate on this pretty small property, and also just sort of, I don't know, cluttering maybe the front elevation. So we felt like a ground floor entry would be really beautiful. As you can see, we're sort of going with this sort of 1/2 story for the second floor to try and keep that house just down a little bit lower. And I think that's super successful. Went with some more modern fenestration to make the house of its time. This is the side. We have a side load garage to keep the pedestrian experience nicer. Big porch on the back for some pretty outdoor space, and this is a good view of that 1-story element on the front that creates the entry. The back with the porches, again, this is a good view of the 1/2 story design that we're going for, and a pretty simplified side elevation here. And here you can see how far back that section and that 1-story element is to sort of protect that tree and to tuck under the canopy. We did just some quick SketchUp just to give you a sense sort of the scale and the layout. And I am here for questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
I don't have any.
Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking?
Hi, Lisa Jones, Historic Charleston Foundation. We've reviewed this application for conceptual improvement of family dwelling at 13 Trumbo, and we would like to request that the design be simplified and restudied to be more, to move to the architectural direction that's in keeping with the historic character of the district, and that's all. Thank you.
Anna Catherine Alexander with the Preservation Society of Charleston. We Really appreciate the applicant reaching out to us as always. And unfortunately, as proposed, we're not supportive of the design due to its large and complicated massing, which is out of character with the modest streetscape on Trumbo. We encourage simplification of the form and the design for a better relationship with the context. The north elevation in particular, we felt too should be restudied to better read as the primary facade with a more clearly defined entrance for a stronger pedestrian experience. Given these concerns, we are not comfortable with this project moving forward at this time. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking? Okay, Travis, if we give the city staff comments and recommendations, please.
Staff's observation, I quoted one of the principles for new construction that discusses the use of authentic materials in Charleston. Our conditions for approval, one, restudy adding fenestration to the east wall first floor. Number two, simplify the variety of roof forms and the relationship between these forms, as well as a fenestration to mimic the rear facade. Number three, use a more cohesive material palette. Number four, the north facade departs from the architectural direction of the south facade. Cohesiveness between these two facades is needed, and our recommendation is deferral for restudy of architectural direction with staff and board conditions.
Thank you, Travis. Julie, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or the city staff comments and recommendations?
Sure. Yeah, let's see. Travis, are you talking about the east side at the front? Is that what you're talking about? Right there, that's what I was thinking. I think we could certainly look at adding some fenestration there. We can obviously discuss materials, look at materials, talk about ways to, bring that more into cohesion with the neighborhood. In terms of, cohesion with the neighborhood, as we saw in the pictures, there's really, especially on our side of the street, there's really not a lot of cohesion there. We feel like we're sort of balancing some elements that are site related in terms of the tree by doing some one-story elements in addition to two-story elements. So I feel like that is a great response to the site. And in addition to that, I feel like our front entry is quite well defined, with our sort of vestibule area and our bracketed roof. In terms of north and south cohesion, the front and the back of the house are not visible with each other. So I'm not certain exactly what that comment is supposed to achieve, but I feel like, I'm super happy with the design. Hope you have some good comments for me.
Thank you. All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
I tend to agree with the preservation groups and staff, about the complexity of this form. First of all, I think it's a nice design. I just don't think it's the right approach for the site, for the context. If you look at particularly the houses across the street, they all have fairly simple forms, and I think that this one is just a little too complex for its context. So I'd like to see a little different approach taken to simplify its form and its fenestration. Just one minor thing that we've done on other projects where we have allowed parking underneath the house and garages to the side it's always a good idea to sort of push that garage door inward, just so it cuts down on the visibility of the street. But that's kind of it for me. It's more of the complexity of the form.
I think I agree with what Bill has said, and I understand that some of the height and height scale and mass here is driven by BFE+2. That's unavoidable, but I think that the massing of this building is large relative to the streetscape and its location. and I agree with Bill, I think it's certainly not an unattractive design. I do not think this design is appropriate for the location of the city. It is, I do not think it reads of an architectural style that fits where it is. And yeah, I do have one question, one quick question. Mass, which on the east elevation at the porch, the 2-story mass, is that for a fireplace, or I was a little, you know, the east, yeah,
Yeah, the
this,
dog, yeah.
this massing on the east elevation.
Uh,
Yeah, right there.
yeah,
Yeah, the large
Mhm.
mass on the right-hand side at the
Mhm.
porch. Is that
Yeah,
for a
the
fireplace?
fireplace, yeah. Just,
Where's the chimney?
it's just ventless.
Oh, it's just, okay.
Ventless.
Ooh, okay.
Can't put a chimney there because it won't be far enough away.
Yeah, and I
Fire
was,
good.
I was wondering about that. If you got a window.
That's what you were wondering.
So I think it needs significant restudy, I think, in massing and in direction.
Great.
We have some consensus on the motion.
I would make a recommendation for deferral or restudy of architectural direction and mass
Simplification of the form.
and simplification of the form.
How about with the staff conditions? Or do you just want to have your general comments?
I think that's the 2 and 3. I think 4, I think, are covered in general in that. And
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for deferral for restudy of architectural direction, mass, for restudy of the architectural direction, mass, and simplification of form and staff conditions.
yeah.
Do you have a
Yes.
second to Fillmore's motion?
I'll second.
Bill. All right, put the motion to a vote. Becky,
In favor.
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair votes the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Julie. Okay, agenda item 10, 158 Spring Street has been withdrawn by the applicant. We are on agenda item 11, 12 Magazine Street. Travis, if you'll give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
12 Magazine Street is in Charleston Village, Council District 8. It is a Category 4 building circa 1785 in the Old Historic District. They are requesting conceptual preliminary final approval to replace a side door. This is an aerial on Magazine. And the applicant's presentation.
Yes, hello. Hopefully this will be quick. Appreciate your all's time today and every Wednesday, Thursday. Yes, this is a project. We renovated the 12 Magazine 3 years ago. It's a commercial building in a residential district primarily. There are several commercial areas around it, but it's a house that was built in the late 1700s and a wonderful structure, and the addition we feel was very compatible. Today we returned with just one little small item, is the front door. Currently it's a 6-panel door, not original to the structure. And it's because it's a clothing shop, the client, Robin, and Worthwhile, which is a store that's been around quite a long time. Has customers come, but they often don't know that's they're coming to the right place because it's so residential in character. And you can't really see past that solid front door. So apparently clients are turning away because they're not sure at the right place. And so all we're asking for is just a glass panel above, so changing a 6 panel to a 2 panel with the glass above. Pretty straightforward. I know there's some perhaps concern that colonial doors didn't have black glazing in them. Well, there are some. There's not as many as a solid 6 panel door, but there are some would have glazing on them. So we think it's compatible and a complement to what is now a very wonderful structure.
Any questions for the applicant?
It's so it's a new door, it's Sapele or
What the door we're going to put in will be mahogany, yes.
Mahogany.
Yeah.
You,
Oh, yeah, you can slip, here we go. It's just, so this is the door we're talking about. The existing 6 panel probably was, installed in the 70s when this building was renovated at that time. This is the new door we're talking about. So it's a 9 light over a 2 panel. This is the existing.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Do we have anyone speaking?
Hi, my name is Robin Richards and I'm the owner of Worthwhile, which was on King Street at 268 for 29 years. And we moved over here about 3 years ago. And when we were doing the renovation, it was really important to keep the character of the residential neighborhood. So we didn't want to change anything at all in the original 1785 house. Except for the door. But we didn't do it at the time, just as because time went by. And as you know, people walking down King Street, you have no trouble seeing in everywhere. And we've just had a lot of people that say they can't find us. It's kind of a dark doorway. And if you open the door, you could hit someone that's standing in the hallway because it's just a little tiny hallway because we didn't change anything in the interior. So it would just help, I think, for the welcoming nature of a retail store to have a little bit of light that could come in and yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone else speaking? Okay. Travis, will you give us city staff comments and recommendations, please?
Staff's observation was that this proposed door is not appropriate for the building, and our recommendation is denial as submitted.
Thank you, Travis. Mr. Richards, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised?
Yeah, I do. I just did a little survey today, and there are a number of homes, colonial homes with just the exact same door that I'm proposing. So this is not, it's not the most common, but there are a number of these doors as I propose. So like I said, the door is not original. It's a white pine door that was probably again installed in the 70s. And what we propose is absolutely appropriate. And it does bring light and welcome potential customers to the store.
Thank you. All right, public comment in the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote. I remember looking at this. I remember looking at this. We saw this. How long ago did you do the renovation?
2020,
Yeah.
21, 22.
Yeah, we saw this. They did a good job. Anyways, not
Yeah, I
really,
guess
but
so. 6 years, that'd be about right. I mean, I gotta come at this from two directions. One is that on a 1785 building in Charleston, the odds of finding 1785, a door with lights in it would be pretty slim. I'm not saying you couldn't find one, but it would be pretty slim. It really is not an appropriate door for 1785 building. Of course, the door that's there is not either. Then I would believe most likely it's not. And so it's not like we're replacing, you wouldn't be replacing a really historic appropriate door with a new door that's less appropriate. And visually, it's probably less appropriate. It's there, and the material probably not. And it's, it's reversible, it's just a door, but I to struggle with the fact that it's really not appropriate for building.
I tend to agree, and I'm just wondering if there's some sort of compromise with some other type of style of door that might be a better choice than this. I mean, you're right, this would not have been on the building.
Actually tried to do a little research to get a general
Yeah.
consensus if maybe,
If
you might be able to make an argument.
If-
Appropriate, I just couldn't.
Yeah, if it weren't for the tightness of leaving the door open, I would say just go with a full light insulated storm over it and just keep your door open during business hours, but it looks like it folds over to the hallway.
It does.
Yeah.
I appreciate they've maintained the residential character of this building, and I think because the door, we're not replacing an original door, and if this is it's now a retail business, then the door can always be replaced in the future.
I agree with you. I don't really have a big problem with it. I think it would be nice if it were glass, and if it ever goes back to being a house, someone probably will put another solid panel door there. So I see where it could go either way, but I personally think it would not be a bad move.
How often is this door used when you're on coming and going daily basis? I mean, I'm not talking customers, but I mean like, outside.
Staff comes in and leaves.
yeah.
Well, a lot. We go in and out a lot.
Because, yeah, I've lived in our old houses downtown, and quite often you'll have a pair of narrower doors, they're not completely convenient, but if you went back with a pair and they could open interior, it wouldn't block your hallway, and then maybe you do go with like a full storm glass or something.
That would not have been historical either.
But it would approximate more than.
Yeah, I don't know, but there are a number of doors that I found in historical pictures of glass lights above a two-panel doors. Not the most common, but they did exist. Interesting sort of note about this structure. It was it's a long story, but very interesting. But the original occupant, the church, St. Philip's, bought it from an orphan and loaned it to him, I guess, in some manner. But he had his upholstery shop downstairs and he lived upstairs. So it was sort of a commercial building even in its inception. So, but regardless, it's just would maybe nice to get some light and some more welcoming to potential
And
customers.
I did mean to mention that we did the signage really, really small. Because of the residential area, I didn't want a big, huge sign. I mean, we literally have like a street sign, tiny sign. And I didn't even put one over the door, we just put a little tiny, small as we could, just because again, it was important to be part of the neighborhood and not stand out as, a store. But it's just that doorway and the entrance, it doesn't look like a store.
It's not welcoming.
Becky, you haven't spoke up. What do you have to say?
I mean, I'm conflicted. I mean, it's not appropriate. I mean, so it's like, but it's function versus the historic nature of it. So that's where I am. And I recognize the dilemma, but I mean, it's, I'd like to see it be something more appropriate.
If it returned to residential, I'm sure it would go back. It would be a solid. Right.
Preservation Society and the Historical Society,
They've reviewed it and they don't have any objections.
They don't have any objections. So.
I'm gonna vote with the preservation groups, but
It's something that's reversible.
it is reversible.
And like it's been said, it's not like we're tossing a historic door in the dumpster.
Right.
Bill, did you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval as submitted.
We have a motion on the floor for approval as submitted. Do I have a second to Bill's motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Daryl, put the motion to a vote. Bill Moore,
Nay opposed.
vote with your conscience.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Becky,
No, that's
Bill,
Yeah.
Daryl,
Yay in favor.
chair vote to the majority and the motion passes 3-4 and 2 against. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 12, 80 Halsey Boulevard. Travis, if you'll give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
All right, 80 Halsey Boulevard is in Charleston Village, Council District 8. It is unrated circa 2018 in the Old Historic District. They are requesting conceptual approval for a new second floor windows. This is aerial of the property, and we are ready for the applicant's presentation.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for your time. Yes, this was a home that was part of the, I guess, the Halsey Park development that was built in 2000. This home was built in 2017, so it's not historic, clearly. And what is unique about it is it's got, because it's part of this Halsey Park development, it doesn't have any land around that they can have an outdoor space. So my clients, John and Judy here, have used the only outside space they have with the porches on first and second level, which I show here in the photographs. And they can't really use the porches year round. They can use them several months of the year because it's either too hot, too cold. They're right across the street from the Alberta Sipilli Long Lake, which you must be familiar with, over there in Halsey, which is on the west side of town. And so they're looking to be able to enclose the second floor and condition that space so they can take advantage of that second floor porch year round. It's the only outside spaces they have. It's a beautiful view across the lake. But what we've done is we've approached it and we're trying to make this enclosure as minimally visible as possible, as discreet as possible. So what we have done is we have large panels. We're keeping all the existing columns, the railings and all of that. And we're putting large panels of glass above the railings. So you really can't see, there's no visible obstructions. I guess all you can see is just a little bit of a trim around on the edge of the column. So it's minimally visible, not historic. And the neighbors are in support of it. And it's really a sort of small factor, but they'll be able to have the open porch on the first level, and then on the second level, be able to use this conditioned space year round to take advantage of the views.
Any questions?
I do.
Go
ahead. Why do you have, second, blew my mind last night trying to review this.
Okay.
It says second floor sunroom plan. You have two of them with two different sets of windows, I guess.
Yeah. Let me get some clarity for you there. So above the railing, we have large expanses of glass, so it's minimally visible. Below the railing, they wanted to have sliding units so they could allow the breeze through there, but it wouldn't be very visible.
I see.
It's behind the railing.
Understood.
So that's the intent of that.
And so this enclosure is set behind the columns and behind.
Correct. Yeah, it slides in behind,
Right.
so it's right behind. It's on the second floor, as obviously.
Built a wall behind the columns.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like from the drawings, it's just a glass wall. Right.
So the renderings or the drawings are pretty accurate. You wouldn't see the glazing.
Any other questions?
John may have something to add here as well.
Come on, John.
Thank you, members of the board, for hearing my wife and I and our application. Well, the wind really blew us here. We built this house, and the first design we had, we didn't have porches on the front. So I said, having a porch on the front would be a good idea, and my architect then, originally designed the house, gave me a one-story porch. And I thought that was crazy. I was crazy, he was right, because we live across from the Alberta Long Lake, which many of you don't even know exists, I suspect, because I didn't know it until I bought the house on the property. But what we found was that we're really living on the Ashley River, and the wind blows very hard. And sitting on the first floor, fine, but getting up on the second floor porch, which is really the third floor porch, because this building is elevated one additional story, and the wind gets stronger when you get higher. And so what we found, we purchased a wonderful bed swing to go up there. We have never sat in that in the 7 or 8 years we've used it. I'm going to say we've never sat on it. We never slept on it. It's really a useless space. We love the house. We'd love to have that porch that we could enjoy some sunshine and some without the wind. But you really wouldn't want to visit us if you had we'd invite all of you to come and sit on it if you'd like to sit on it. But to make the house more usable, doing something with that floor is what we got David to design this for us. And it will not be hardly visible from the street at all. So I hope you won't have any trouble with this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking from the public? Okay, Travis, you'll give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
All right, staff is just acknowledging that this is a newer home, circa 2018, and the proposed drawings do show this being constructed interior of the existing columns and railing. Are conditioned for approval as drawn. They are showing aluminum clad wood windows, and that would have to remain. Our recommendation is for conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff of permit drawings.
Thank you, Travis. Did the applicant want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the city staff comments and recommendations? No need to.
No.
One quick question for David. Color wise, are you planning on maybe a dark color to recede, or are you planning on maybe?
I think we would do the white so it blends in with the rest of the house and porch. Yes.
All right, public comment. The applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
Fine.
Was that a motion, Bill?
Yeah, I would. Motion for approval estimate.
Conceptual approval with
Final review by
Preliminary.
and final review by
Yeah.
staff.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff. I have a second by Daryl. I'll put the motion to a vote. Becky?
No, opposed.
Fillmore?
Yeah, in favor.
Bill?
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl?
Yeah, in favor.
Chair votes to the majority and the motion passes 4-4 and 1 against. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 13, 128 Trad Street. Travis, could you give us an introduction overview of the project, please?
128 Trad Street is in Charlestown, Council District 8. It is a category 2 building circa 1765 in the old historic district. They are requesting preliminary approval for the removal and reconstruction of the 1964 bathroom addition enclosure of a porch, as well as various elements for restoration, refinishing, repair, removal, relocation, and repainting. This is an area of the property, and we are the applicant's presentation.
Hello again, I'm Ross Ritchie with Loyal Architects here with our preliminary review of our work at 128 Trad. I'll try to be brief this time. As mentioned, or At the last meeting, we gained conceptual approval with conditions and final details to staff, and thank you for that. Although at the last meeting, we had so much to share with all the aspects of the project, kind of the gain approvals, the rich history of the home. We felt some of the items noted in the conditions, they didn't receive the time that they deserved for us to share the info that we compiled about each architectural move. With that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague and resident preservationist, Mitchell.
Hey guys, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, given that this is the second time you guys are looking at this, so thank you. Ross and I actually took the opportunity after our last meeting to meet with Frankie and Brad, which was super helpful. And we realized in that meeting that there was so much information that we'd compiled that you guys getting all that documentation the day before did nobody any favors, because you probably didn't have time to look through 65 pages of stuff. So I'm taking the opportunity to go through all the research that I had prepared in advance of that meeting with you today, because now I'm sort of the official expert on poly bays and their window arrangements in Charleston. So first, just to obviously reacquaint you with the house so that you know what we're talking about. Then okay. Sorry, again with the number of pages. Okay, here we are. So I want to just start off by sort of walking you through what I feel is one of the most beautiful patchwork built south of Broad. So as you can see, the house started sort of as a typical Charleston single house when it was built around 1750. Then in 1788, pretty soon after it was originally built, it was transferred to a daughter as sort of and as a wedding gift, an addition was put on the house. So then a piazza was added, and what became the formal dining room was added here, eliminating obviously what would have been a pair of stacked windows on 2 floors over here, as well as a pair of windows on the ground floor. Then by 1830, we've added a stair volume at the rear of the property. Here, and then 1888, we have another volume, a square volume that's added adjacent to the square volume, to the stair volume. And then here in 1902, we have our first time that the poly bay shows up. So around 130 plus years after the house was built, our poly bay shows up. It is at the time built with a lap siding. The rest of the house does have siding that has a bead on it, so it's already differentiated sort of from the style of the original part of the house. And then obviously here in this 1964, you can see that bath addition that we referenced previously. What I want to do is sort of talk a little bit about this poly bay. And like I said, the siding doesn't have a bead on it like the rest of the original part of the house. It has a flat roof, and it is sort of subservient to the rest of the house in that it wasn't part of the original sort of architectural plan, right? It's sort of like an add-on. So to go through some comps with you. When I say that I am like now the official expert on poly bays in Peninsular Charleston, I'm kind of kidding, but not really. So I decided to take as a comp, we're gonna go straight for sort of relevant comps are era. So it has to be sort of in the latter half of the 19th century or early part of the 20th century to be considered a comp here. Also, form and material, all of my comps, and these are only a few of them because that would be a whole other presentation if I tried to cover them all, but all of these are wood frame, wood siding over masonry base. There are obviously many poly bays in Charleston that are full masonry volumes. I don't consider that a comp in this case because of the building materials involved in this house. So I also put a little map here for you just so the ones I pulled are sort of the closest ones that I felt were relevant. Obviously on New Street and Logan Street, here and here, which are really close by, those are obviously integral to the original design of that house. So while it is a comp in the sense that it's nearby and the timeline is perfect,
it's obviously not a direct comp because it is part of the original architectural style of the house. One of my favorites that as a preservationist makes me sad looking at the historic photo and what it looks like today, but is 151 Wentworth. You can see here, over here, the poly bay that was actually added as an addition in 1883, which is effectively like straight up our timeline. This is what it looks like today, but you can see the poly bay is still there. Those piazzas were removed. This is all now a parking lot, but you get my drift. And then obviously here's our house, just so you can reference here. And then 9 Legree is another one that I'm loving for a direct comp to 128 Trad. This was an addition as well in the early 1900s on that piazza. So looking here, you can see we have this blank spot. And none of these have a blank spot in that location. I can find no example of a masonry-based wood frame, wood-sided house in Charleston where there are not stacked windows in the central portion of the bay. In addition to that, after our last meeting, we had proposed to y'all the infill of the masonry base of the poly bay. So now, per your approval, thank you very much, we will have that filled in with windows in each section of that poly bay, sort of leaving the perfect opportunity to stack more windows on top of it. I think one of the important things I also want to highlight is that not only is this sort of an aesthetic choice we're making, but again, as per your approval, we are adding piazza doors on the Trad Street elevation on 2 floors. And that is eliminating 4 windows on that Trad Street elevation. This is sort of a window reuse project because those 4 windows, those are where we want to use them here. So we want to put 1 here, and then 2 right here. And those are the 4 windows that we are eliminating when we put in those piazza doors. Really, the overall theme here is to reconnect the house with the garden, re-engage the house with its site, because right now there really isn't that. So by infilling the bay on the bottom, adding those windows, putting windows in the bay above, connecting through the piazza doors on that Trad Street elevation, we're really re-engaging with the property, which is awesome because obviously, as we know, that's a pretty visible property south of Broad. I mentioned it, everybody knows what we're talking about. So all I would say is that 128 Trad with this poly bay, it's a total outlier. It's random. I don't know why the windows aren't there, but based on everything and all the research I've done, they really should be there based on what I've learned. And I think that, our goal with this whole project and everything that we're putting forth, which is a lot. And so again, we really appreciate your time. This is a really passionate team we've put together, myself, Ross, Artist Construction, Brittany Tula. We have the support of Historic Charleston Foundation and Preservation Society of Charleston. We've met with Preservation Society 2 separate times. They have an interior and an exterior easement on the property, and Historic Charleston Foundation has an easement on the landscape. They have approved all of our plans for the property. And then in addition, we are seeking tax credits, and we do have approval on both our S1 and S2 so far. So again, we really appreciate your time, understand this is a lot to take in, but we hope that you guys might take some of this into consideration and support what we're talking about. So thank you, appreciate it.
Any questions for the applicant?
You guys did you get the sense at all that maybe it was originally intended to have the windows or?
Unfortunately, we did do some demolition on that interior wall, and again, that's that fascinating bay that's wrapped in something like zinc too. It does not seem as though with the framing and the siding that's currently there, that there was a window in either of those locations. I will say, however, the architectural plans that we have from the 1960s renovation, what they show going into those spaces is different than what's there currently. And interestingly, on the second floor, it's this whole very elaborate vanity setup in the master bathroom. And it sort of leaves me thinking like, that's sort of curious that we're not seeing windows there, but they
Yeah.
made the effort to put this huge vanity setup there. We have had a lot of conversations with the Parker family, who for generations owned this house prior to my client. And we know for a fact that bay, the area in the bay on the first floor had been a bedroom at one point. It's been used for many things, so I think over the course of, hard to say.
You just feel like it's sort of an anomaly.
Yeah, I really do, and I'm, you know, as Rob would tell you, I'm really nerdy when it comes to windows and what I think is appropriate, and I took the time, and I cannot find anything that I can go, you know, this makes me feel guilty even proposing this. There is nothing. Now, masonry,
Yeah,
solid,
some
yes,
masonry ones.
there are, and I can start listing those for you, but
Yeah.
that's not a comp. And a lot of those masonry ones actually are much earlier in the 19th century, like in 1810, 1815, whereas all of this is 1880s through the early 20th century.
Owen, thank you for your diagram. I wish more people would do that.
Oh.
Yeah, we look at
See the
Sanborn maps all the time and.
The
people would-
evolution.
Yeah, that's terrific of that.
Any other questions? Do we have anyone speaking from the public?
Anna Catherine Alexander with the Preservation Society of Charleston. As discussed at the previous meeting, we are the easement holder. We've reviewed and approved this proposal as submitted. We do appreciate and understand the board's request for additional information to support proposed fenestration changes, and we also very much appreciate Olivia's thorough response. This has been great additions to the documentation we have on file for this easement. Just from our perspective, through our review and consultation with the applicant as the easement holder, we really prioritized limiting modifications to this property to previously altered features and areas that represent later periods of development. Given that the proposed alterations we're discussing right now would not change the overall character of this property, nor result in demolition of an inordinate amount of historic material, and they're supported by local precedent. And this area is obviously a later period of development, and it has been altered over time, siding wise at least. We got to a place where we're comfortable. So we just wanted to express that for the board's background, and we appreciate your thoughtful review.
Anyone else speaking? All right. Travis, if you give any staff comments and recommendations, please.
Park staff observations, that this is an application or an alteration to a previous conceptual approval. Staff does not oppose the proposed windows and polygon. Staff is also unclear as to what, if anything else, is being requested to change. Our recommendation is conceptual approval with windows, with preliminary and final review by staff of the permit drawings.
Thank you, Travis. Did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or the staff comments?
Sure. Just the further changes, the only changes that were made were just the siding profile on the bathroom bay. That will be just lap. Right now it's shown, or it's beaded, kind of matching the main volume. So it'll be just lap that will match the polygon.
So the only thing we're looking at tonight are the bay windows, the three.
Yeah, the windows and then the two on the north facade.
Oh, yeah, the gang
The
ones.
four reload.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
On the bay, you know, I think with your thorough research, I think I've been convinced that that's an okay thing, and with the easement holders supporting it as well.
It should be a precedent when we ask for more research.
Yes.
When we ask applicants to give us more.
I could write a thesis now. I was interested in the
You
course
did
at
a
CFC.
very thorough job. The other item that the gained windows, I still do feel strongly about that, but I just don't think that the gained windows are appropriate, that it should be a single window aligning with the window above.
Gotta be honest, I'm having trouble finding that.
Let's see if I can find it for you.
Sheet is it?
I'm looking now. It would be. Yeah, it's A203. As opposed to a single.
Other end.
And two side by side instead of a single one.
Oh. Is there currently only one window there? Are there no windows? There's only one.
It's a short,
It's
it's a
one,
short
it's a
one.
little bit
right?
shorter.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's somewhere, I agree with Bill, it's somewhere appropriate arrangement.
So it seems like there's some consensus on the everything but these two windows.
Yeah.
I mean, even how do you feel about the heading windows? Polygon.
Oh, I think it's a good argument for it. I mean, I think if the previous submittal about the door had given some precedence, there might have been an easier discussion of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, so I'm okay with that.
Okay.
But I'm sort of with Bill on the window on the rear.
I was building the windows. I think I'm okay with particularly since the easement holders, S1, S2 have been approved, and it just does sort of technically give some push that's okay. I still always do, clearly was not a mistake when it was done. Somebody did it intentionally. Now, it may not have been a good idea when it was done, but certainly it was done intentionally.
Right.
And I have to give a little bit of credence to that, but I think it's probably okay, put two windows. It certainly does balance the architecture.
I know, it does make a more elegant.
It absolutely does. And so, but I agree with Bill on the two windows by aligning the window in that elevation.
Bill, did you want to make a motion?
Yes, they're asking for, would this be a final or?
Are we back to conceptual because it's just these two elements?
It's a alteration to a previous
To a previous,
conceptual
okay.
approval.
All right, I will do approval of the alteration to allow the two windows in the bay, but denial to allow the paired windows on the
North.
north elevation.
I think they would need approval to replace the one that's existing. But I guess that's not in the plan. Can we allow them to work with staff?
Yeah, with staff on it, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor for conceptual approval of the alteration.
Preliminary, right?
No, this is the alteration of a previous conceptual.
Sorry.
To allow the two windows in the bay, denial of the two windows on the north elevation with preliminary and final review by staff of permit drawings. Do I have a second to Bill's motion?
I'll second.
Daryl, put the motion to a vote. Becky?
Yeah, in favor.
Fillmore?
Yeah, in favor.
Bill?
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl?
Yeah, in favor.
Chair vote to the majority and the motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 14, 145 Calhoun Street. You wanted to say something? Travis, you'll give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
145 Calhoun Street, Charleston Village, Council District 8. It is unrated, circa 1980 in the old historic district. And this is the appeal of a staff decision to install raceway with LEDs into existing canopy. This is an aerial of the property, and we're ready for the applicant.
Evening, y'all. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. What we're proposing is just an illuminated addition to an existing sign that's already mounted on the canopy at 145 Calhoun. It's for a restaurant and nightclub called The Jewel. The basic goal is to shift the letters that are already on a raceway that are attached to the canopy, move it back slightly because they're at the edge of that canopy facing the street, and then to add that new raceway with LEDs at that diagonal angle. Sorry, I'll show you that. Just so that we have some uplighting towards the letters. So existing right now, as you can see, Ritual is at the edge of that canopy. Then we push back slightly, and then the new raceway with LEDs diagonally to shed light onto the faces of those existing letters. Electrical will be ran from a junction box behind the letters in order to hide it back there, and so it's not visible from the street. Everything painted to match the existing canopy, which is roughly a dark gray, black kind of marble, faux marble look.
So the light would be visible, is that correct? Like,
Yeah, yes,
like it's
sir.
being seen there?
Yes, sir. The light would be shooting backwards and diagonally up to hit the faces of the existing letters.
I see.
Yes, sir.
There's no baffle in front of it on the street.
Technically, the raceway would act as a way to not let light out forwards. So we're having it at an angle so that it only shoots back towards the letters, so back towards the building.
Then how come it's illuminated in that picture? That's why I guess it looks like a.
This one here,
Yeah.
that's the proposed look. I just made it look like it was nighttime.
So you're gonna see the strip, the bulb.
No, that's just illumination. I'm just wasn't good at using Illustrator effects to create that. You won't actually see an LED strip whatsoever.
From our perspective, that looks like a long light bulb, so that's why.
Right.
Fair enough.
That's what it is.
I
yourself.
Which
I blew them up to be a little big. Modules are about less than an inch wide, about an inch long.
So in section, the bottom right there, can you point to where that bulb would be? That would, at the bottom of that arrow?
This here?
Yeah. Oh, I see what you got. That's the light there.
Yes.
And, understood. Yeah, I was thinking like, put a damn big bulb up there.
Any other question? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, keep going.
The goal is to make it as least intrusive, as least letting light bleed out, away from the building as possible. The goal is to push and flood light towards the letters just to draw attention there at nighttime. We're planning on using white LEDs. It's a cool white. I can give you temperature, but probably doesn't matter. We can offer a dimmable option to the client if that's something that the board is concerned about, for brightness or things like that. So we're kind of prepared to pivot should the need exist to do that. But that's the basic idea for adding illumination.
And this might be a question for both of you. Are there any other signs on that building, that on canopy signs that are illuminated as well, or?
On 145 itself, no, sir.
Okay.
But Trio about, I forget the address, but it's one building down. They do have an uplight.
Right, yeah.
wall sign.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I'm just talking about this building in particular, just for consistency.
No, sir. I actually drove by last night because I thought the Walgreens sign illuminated, but it does not.
Yeah, because I know, I'm just reaching way back in time. I do know that when this building underwent a major renovation, that a comprehensive sign package was put in the file to keep the uniform look in this.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank
Do
you.
we have anyone speaking?
Billy, for Charleston Foundation. HCF has reviewed the application for new LED lighting on the existing canopy of 145 Calhoun. We are not in favor of adding this lighting and believe that it is not in keeping with the historic character of Charleston.
Anyone else speaking? Travis, give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
All right, staff only has an observation as this is an appeal of a staff denial, and that is we cannot approve illuminated signage at staff.
Thank you. Did you want to respond to or clarify anything in the public comment? Or-
Thank you.
All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
I have one other question. What type of business is this and what are the operating hours?
It is a restaurant slash club, and they open, I believe, at 6 p.m. and then go until 1 a.m. too.
So it is a nighttime business.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I think weekends they may open for lunch, but a solar cell would, help with not illuminating sun during light hours.
I was about to say that when I looked at the businesses nearby, like, I think they're daytime. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've sort of established a policy that if a business is open, that we allow lighted signage if a business is open after dark. And in my opinion, this is a pretty, I think it's probably about the most sensitive way that you can light these letters. You guys think so, or?
Now that I understand it, I think that.
Yeah.
I know, me too. I guess, this always leads me to the question, what are the parameters of the light level? You know what
Yeah, so I
mean?
think a
It's like-
dimmable feature would be great. That way, if staff gets a call and says this thing's glaring
too
bright,
bright.
I guess.
Oh, yeah, because
Turn
we
it on down.
don't have any standards for the light level
For the light
for
level.
I certainly understand, that figured area where there might not be any other lighted businesses around
Yeah.
that we might need, some light on your sign to call attention to it. But
But I don't want it to
I
be
I agree.
like-
I think that having some sort of standard for how bright that gets would
important.
would help. It would help us, because now we just say yay or nay.
I like the condition that it be dimmable, and that way we don't have to necessarily. Did anyone want to make a
That
motion?
gives us a little comfort.
If it would
So
be a
if it-
motion
And then,
to,
of course, it becomes a livability issue.
overturn the staff decision,
But I think.
So,
grant the approval with board condition.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
I
you.
think your motion would be to overturn the staff denial and
Okay,
it would be with a board condition if you wanted a dimmable option.
so I make a motion to overturn the staff recommendation. Is that right?
Overturn the staff decision.
Staff decision. And under to provide dimmable lights.
You probably know the lingo better than I do, but if we were to say that the light be dimmable, is that enough?
Some folks aren't very intelligent, folks. Dimmable is the right terminology.
We have a motion on the floor. To overturn the staff decision with a board condition that the light be dimmable. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Becky, with the motion to a vote. Fillmore,
Yay in favor.
Bill,
Yeah.
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
Becky,
Yay in favor.
chair votes to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 15, 770 Rutledge Avenue. Travis, do give us an introduction and overview of the project, please.
770 Rutledge Avenue is in the north central neighborhood, Council District 4. It is unrated circa 1930 in the historic corridor district. And they are requesting conceptual approval for a new rear addition. We have an aerial of the property and we are ready for the applicant.
Hello, I'm Heather Antos. I'm the property owner along with my husband.
I'm not her husband, I'm her brother-in-law. I'm the builder.
We've lived in this house, since it was first renovated in 2011. So I knew there was a question about when, it's a Charleston single home. There was a time that the kitchen was added over to the side and a bathroom. And that was done by Richard and Lori Hess in 2011. That's when we bought the home. So we had just had our first child then, and our little house in Wagner Terrace became way too small for children. So we've lived in the neighborhood for about 22 years. We love this area of town. We need some more space. We now have a teenager and a soon-to-be. And we are requesting approval to push backward in the house. We're going to have some closet space. We're gonna have a mudroom for book bags and shoes. And we're gonna have some porches in the back.
Any questions?
She nailed it.
Hey, the last application. Any questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you. Any comments from the public?
And Catherine Alexander with the Preservation Society of Charleston. We appreciate the applicant concentrating alterations to the rear of this building. We just have a couple of recommendations for making the addition more subordinate to the historic structure. We encourage reducing the scale of the proposed demolition on the east elevations to allow the addition to connect below the eave of the historic building. Additionally, we would encourage stepping in on the south elevation so that the evolution of the property remains legible. So just small amendments to their proposal.
Recently, Historic Charleston Foundation, HCF has reviewed the application for a new rear addition at 770 Rutledge. We note that a large portion of the rear of the building is proposed for demolition, but there's no information in the application about the age of the existing rear addition and whether it is historic. We are not comfortable supporting this application until we have confirmation that no historic material will be removed to accommodate this new addition. We respectfully request that this application be deferred until more information is provided about the history of the structure at the site.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Travis, if you give us any staff comments and recommendations, please.
And I can answer those questions.
We'll do a response period and then you'll get to.
All right, staff's observation. Staff is comfortable with the height, scale, mass, and architectural direction of the addition. And our recommendation is conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff of perma drawings.
Thank you, Travis. Now, you can answer.
The only question about what historic material would be removed. The back wall of the house would be removed. Which actually solves a few problems for us because the renovation that was done by Richard and Lori Hess in 2011. They were very interested in preservation and in trying for the Karolopoulos Award. So all of the siding on the house is original to the house, which is wonderful and one of the things we loved about it. What we didn't realize is that the condition of the siding on the house is such that paint doesn't stick to it. So we constantly have peeling paint and exposed wood, which of course allows moisture into the house and damage. We've had the house repainted already. We've lived in it 12 years, 13 years. We've already had the entire house repainted years ago, and now we were going to have to do it again anyway. So we really need to replace that siding as it is. The second is windows. Those windows in the back of the house, they take the brunt of any storm and hurricane that come by. Our normal routine is to wrap up towels and stuff them in the windows because water and dirt come in, and it's caused the windows to rot. So we are removing that part of the house, but it's keeping it the way it is would be more damaging.
I can add to that too. The addition was done with clad windows. The clad windows are falling apart. They're aluminum clad windows that the Husses put on there.
They're not the original?
They're not the
windows?
original
Okay.
windows. There's lap siding on that. The only thing that they're removing from the actual back of the house, they're adding on to the existing line, keeping within the same lines. The only thing that they're removing is a deck that's falling apart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote. Fillmore?
Yeah, I'm next to this. According to the drawings, except for facing the rear of the house on the east elevation, except for a small area on the right-hand side, the drawings indicate that the entire rear elevation, at least the wall, the closure is being removed, as is the left side gable of the rear gable. And I can see, so the amount of that concerns me, as well as what that says about the rest of the addition. And I think that I think the general architectural direction and form is fine. I think that but it is roof line occupies one side of the gable. On the rear, I think the roof needs to be dropped to come in under the existing roof line. And I think on the south side, the addition is coplanar with the existing wall. And in fact, the siding is the same and continues in. So while the architectural direction, I think in form is okay, I think there are sort of a number of steps that need to be taken. One is the roof line of the addition needs to be below the existing roof line of the house, so it does not impede on the gable. And I think that on the south side, it needs to be inset from the corner of the existing house to indicate the new addition from the old addition, if you would, or the original house. And then probably there should be some slight difference in siding pattern as an indication whether it's reveal or form in siding. And so I think that while in general the direction is fine, it needs substantial modification in order to where it needs to be to follow what we would view as a standard subordinate rear addition and in a historic pattern in Charleston.
Do you think with your comments, it's enough for conceptual approval and to send it to staff, or you want to see it? Okay.
I agree with everything that Fillmore said. That, I mean, everything he's mentioned is what we ask of everyone when putting an addition onto the back of a historic house. It's, you know, it's the formula that we give everyone.
We're going to defer. Can we give? I might want you to repeat your comments so we can be. Were there any other comments?
Fillmore covered
Fillmore
everything
covered
I was looking
Okay.
for.
Okay, I would say deferral for
With board conditions. With board conditions or board comments.
yeah, deferral with board comments to inset the addition wall from the corner on the south elevation. Lower the roof line to be below the cornice of the existing structure roof. Differentiate the siding on the addition from the original house. And you guys can hone in on this, comment on this because you may disagree, but I would like to see the fenestration pattern I'm not sure it's visible. Is the back of the rear addition visible?
Is the back of the rear?
Yeah, I just tried to look on Google and I couldn't
Can't see it.
tell.
Okay, well, that would be it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because if it's not visible, it doesn't matter.
What was your first one? Inset addition,
The inset, the
addition wall from the,
addition wall on the south elevation, inset the addition wall from the corner of the existing structure.
okay. We have a motion on the floor for deferral with some board conditions. First, to inset the addition wall on the south elevation from the corner of the existing structure. Two, to lower the roof line of the addition to be below the cornice. And then three, differentiate the siding on the addition. That's right. Okay, do I have a second to Fillmore's motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bill. The motion to vote, Becky.
Yeah.
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair votes to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank y'all. All right, just motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Fillmore. Do I have a second?
I'll
Yes.
second.
Thank you, Bill. All in favor?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.